Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Roundtable Podcast. I am known as Shogun, and today we are going to get to the bottom of one of the basic conspiracy questions. Aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs, flying saucers. Are they real? Are they aliens? Where do they come from? What are aliens like? What are their intentions? Have they been here since ancient times? Is the ancient astronaut theory true? Or is all this bullshit and made up? Was it a psyop? We're going to talk about each and every aspect of aliens, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, and everybody gets their turn on the mic. It's an open discussion, no special guests. But before we do, just let me remind you, we are the Roundtable Discord server. You can find us by Googling Roundtable Discord. Check out our YouTube channel where we have well over 100 amazing podcasts. We're also on BitChute, Parler, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and many more. And please, if you love this server, consider supporting our subscribes to our Patreon and GoFundMe. That being said, welcome everybody. Thank you for participating in this event. I think we can also probably count on a fashionably late arrival of Mr. Dr. Weird, which will make a very interesting conversation indeed, as all of us who know him know. But until then, we'll do this as a roundtable format, which means that every single person in the group gets one turn before anybody gets a second turn. But we won't limit it to one turn. After that, it'll turn into open discussion. So in other words, what we're going to do is when you want a turn on to talk about this topic, just key up and you'll get your turn. But everyone has to get one turn if they want it before anybody takes a second turn. After that, it's just completely open. So is there anyone who wants to introduce the topic or make a first statement about aliens? I'm going to offer this to, I'm assuming NSA is here. Yeah, NSA, you know what, man, do you want to kick us off? I feel like you're the best person to introduce the topic.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me go outside. All right, well, the obvious one here is Roswell, right? So Trump just recently talked about it. So there's discussions on Earth about multiple alien races visiting. There's a group called MUFON that does UFO reports. So I think they've collected about 20 million abduction reports worldwide. It's a phenomena that can't be, dictated as some kind of collective psychosis. There's many people that have claimed to be abducted and actually communicated with these beings, of which there's many, many, many types. So apparently there's something in the realm of 6 to 7. As far as prominent political figures that make announcements about it, nobody does. So there's some kind of international cabal to cover it up, and the countries don't want to discuss it. There's countries like France, which recently released some of their information about UFO documents. Canada wants to, shit like that. America will never do it for reasons that I can talk about later. But so there's a big cover-up going on. There's many sightings, and there's all kinds of like crazy stories too, and it goes back to biblical times, the ancient aliens story and all that stuff. We've been getting visitors from other worlds, and there's all kinds of gods, and why are they all in different shapes and sizes all over the place? You know, what is their connection with our religions and why? So I don't know. I could literally talk for like 10 hours on this subject, so I'm going to pass right now and listen in. But we can talk about some other stuff.
Just remember, like I said, there's no time limit on these special events, so we want content here. So if you want to get more content out now, you can. However, if you do pass, we will come back to you, but we won't come back to you until everyone else has had their chance. So you sure you don't want to say more now?
Yeah, I gotta pee, so go
okay
ahead.
Well, that was great. Thanks, brother. Now, is there anyone who wants to take a second swing at this topic? If nobody else does, I'm more than happy to, but I want to give other people a chance to go first if they want. Disconnected, or is everyone just quiet?
No, you're good, brother.
Okay, so I guess that means it's my turn next. Okay, so I am 100%, well, you can never in intelligence say 100%, so say 98% plus repeating, confident that fucking aliens, extraterrestrials exist. So let me break it down this way. If you don't understand that there's life all through space, if you believe in space, which some of us don't, but most of us do, it is a mathematical and logical certainty that life of all different varieties is just universally spread throughout the universe, and the universe is infinitely large, meaning that there is an infinite number of alien species that exist and have existed since the beginning of time, which as far as we know was a long fucking time ago. So therefore, there's no logical reason whatsoever why one of these species that could have evolved millions of years ago could have IQs hundreds of times higher than ours, and could have emerged on another planet, would not have by now started colonizing space. And by logic, you just repeat that. There's probably and is many interstellar alien civilizations. This. You can prove this to yourself with simple common sense and logic. You don't even need to look at the evidence. Can you guys still hear me good? Mic check.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, when I say mic check, that means somebody's supposed to tell me if they can hear me. And when I say, can you hear me good, somebody should answer. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not speaking into the void. But that being said, so you can prove to yourself that aliens exist with simple logic and common sense. It doesn't even require evidence. Like, you can do this like 1 + 1 = 2. You know, there's aliens everywhere. But if you actually want to look at the evidence, I mean, yeah, you can definitely talk about Roswell. Roswell was a legitimately bizarre event that does seem to indicate the crash of some kind of flying saucer and the recovering of some kind of non-human or non-standard human bodies. And this is a very interesting case. However, it's one of thousands of cases that I would consider just as interesting or more interesting. If you use Google Maps, you can literally see flying saucers and UFOs in Antarctica. I'll show you pictures later where you can see what is very obviously a metal flying saucer parked in Antarctica using Google Maps. If you go back to the Nazis, they had two things. The Hanabu was a flying saucer type aircraft, and the Flying Bell, which was some kind of even weirder form of thing. And there's always been speculation that they had some kind of technology because of, interaction with extraterrestrials. It seems pretty obvious that humans have reverse engineered technology from extraterrestrials, meaning that either from crashed aircraft or from actual cultural exchange and transmission with aliens, our own technology was catapulted ahead. So if you take a chart and you look at human technological progress, it's extremely gradual and basically like non-existent through most of time, right? People invented fire, no new invention for 1 million years. You just have fire. Then you get the wheel, no new invention for 500,000 years. You just got fire on the wheel. And then the spear, you know what I mean? Like, it's like very gradual, basic things. But all these things are telescoping. True, that could be one explanation. But if you actually look at it, there is a huge explosion. We have literally, in less than a couple hundred years, gone from campfires, muskets, and horses to space stations and spaceships. Now, ask yourself, do you really think we were that slow of technological progress? And I mean, the ancients did incredible things, don't get me wrong. And that actually raises a whole other question of the fact that flying machines are found in the Vimanas and in the Mayan relics and so forth. So it seems that ancient people actually had some kind of spaceships and whatever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I moved from one point to the other, and then I forgot what my first. Oh yeah, so it seems likely that the reason we've had this crazy explosion in things like supercomputers and space stations and quantum machinery and so forth in the last little while is because that is after Roswell, because that is after we recovered an alien craft. And when you think about this, this makes perfect sense. So imagine you have a species of intelligent monkeys who live on an island, right? And then say one day, for some weird reason, an F-35, it has like a fuel problem over the ocean, and it actually makes a landing or a crash landing on some small tropical island inhabited by fairly intelligent monkeys. What do you think is going to happen to their society? They're going to start picking the thing apart. They're going to be looking at it. They're going to be touching it. They're going to be opening it. They're going to be going inside. They're going to be seeing the buttons. They're going to be seeing all the symbols. That monkey tribe is going to change pretty damn quick and become a lot more sophisticated. Now, they may end up creating some like bizarre religion around it and not understanding what it really was, but there's still definitely their technology is going to develop. They'll break a little piece off the window and use it to make a glass knife. They'll rip a little piece of leather off and make a little belt. Well, so that's an equivalent example of what happens to our society when an alien craft crashes here. And that's why the governments are so quick to go pick them up and then classify it. In my opinion, we have a secret space program and a breakaway civilization that happened on this planet quite a long time ago, probably after World War II, because they've actually had this kind of spacecraft technology for such a long time that those who possess and control it have already gone out into space. And I'm quite sure there's already colonization on both the moon and Mars that is human. Now, why would it be kept secret? Well, because think about it. As soon as you and you alone have the ability to start colonizing space, why in the world would you want to announce it to the rest of the world? You get a head start. You could just go. So if Russia gets the first really good spaceship, they're not going to be like, UN, we have a new spaceship. What should be the laws about this? We want to make sure you all know we have this spaceship. And what's the rules about colonizing space? No, you're going to go out there and start trying to conquer or resource as many planets as you can. Sorry, I'll get off the mic soon too. So I believe that there has been interaction. Also, the ancient alien theory is essentially correct. There's Neolithic cave paintings that have paintings of gray aliens and flying saucers on them. You can find flying saucers all through religious art. Like I said, there seems to have been nuclear war and flying saucers in certain parts of India, like Mahabharata in ancient times. So where is this technology coming from? Was it human? Was it alien? I do want to mention two quick possibilities, and again, I have so much more to say about this. But aliens could be demons, that you have to be agnostic about this, or they could be some kind of spiritual entity. We can't rule that out, but neither can we prove it. I don't personally believe that. I think demons and UFOs are a different phenomenon. I myself have seen UFOs on multiple occasions. I've had actual UFO sightings myself. I've also seen gray aliens in a spiritual journey, a spiritual state, not drug induced, like an actual like out of body type experience. I literally saw literal gray aliens, exactly the way they were described, and they were looking at me through a black screen. And I had never seen this before in my life. I've never seen aliens in my life. And they were looking at me through a black screen and like waving at me and going, "Hey, it's nice to finally meet you. It's nice to finally meet you." And it was very, very bizarre. And then a fucking video came out of this like video player, and it was called The Visitors. And I woke up with just like knowing for sure that it was not just like some dream. It was some weird fucking encounter. So I think that's enough for my turn. Does anybody else want to say anything about this?
I can go.
What do you mean, who can go? This is a round table. Is everybody getting a turn?
Can I go?
Whoever speaks up first gets it.
All right, cool. So you mentioned Roswell, which I thought was very interesting. And one of the very interesting things about Roswell is the fact that that was around the time that the transistor was invented. Now, when you look at Roswell and the time frame, that was long before any kind of microchip technology came into existence, or any kind of real computing power. Because back in even the 60s, computers used to be huge. They used to fill rooms. You fast forward to the 70s and 80s, and we start seeing more and more micronization. And keep in mind, this is all within the same century that we would have had horse buggies and very, very early automobiles, just very early steam engines and shit like that. So when you mentioned in a couple of hundred years from humans going from muskets and horses to becoming, not a spacefaring race yet, but having space stations and the like, and advanced computers, it is certainly an extreme. And I do think that it would be very difficult for I do think that it would be a difficult theory to disprove that there hasn't been at least some kind of reverse engineering of some sort of technology. I also have to mention that even the idea of a gray alien, like the big head and the black eyes, that had to come from somewhere. I definitely don't think that it was just a human who invented that. I think that was based in a real event. What that event may be and what the circumstances of that creation or sorry, of the concept itself, what it was, I don't know. And I don't know if anybody really knows. But I do think that it was based on a real event and a real alien race. Now, I don't really believe that aliens are demons or anything like that. I mean, yes, it's a possibility. I do believe in space. I'm not religious myself per se, but I do think, I definitely do believe in aliens to some degree. And I do think that Roswell happened.
I like how you said you believe in space, because that's the exact right word you should use, because space has never been substantiated.
Well, I mean, I know
hold on, guys. Hold on. Be quiet. Hold on. So I'm sorry, I forgot we have a lot of new members. So first of all, this is a recorded podcast. Recorded podcasts have formats. This is called a roundtable format. The reason it's called that is because each person gets one turn and then passes the mic to the next person and passes the mic to the next person. So there's no back and forth in these events, and there's no cutting out a line. So whoever has the mic gets it for as long as they want. When they're done, someone else gets it. So there's no back and forth in these kind of events. I just wanted to establish that. So whoever's turn it was, you want to continue?
Yeah, I
or
just
did
wanted
you
to
have more
continue
you wanted to say?
a little. I had a little bit more that I wanted to say, but I'm not really like angry about the interruption at all. But if I could just
Nor should you be,
respond.
bro.
Yeah, I'm not angry at all. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, yeah, sometimes even I forget and interrupt people, so it's no biggie to whoever did that. But yeah, when it comes to space, I mean, I know that there are some people on this server who don't believe in space. Some people probably think the Earth's flat, and that's fine. I mean, I respect different beliefs like that. But I do think that the idea of a gray alien or that proof of concept, the appearance of the creature, is certainly not something that a human just randomly came up with. I mean, the origin point for that concept, because I did research on this. I actually tried to look at who could have come up with such a thing randomly, and it's like that's the weird thing. Like at least with demons or literally any mythological being, you could always trace it back to a certain origin point. You can't do that with gray aliens. And I realize that this is something that is fairly different than the usual talk regarding aliens, but I do think it's important to look at the proof of concept of just where these ideas would come from. And I don't think that they were invented by humans. I certainly don't think that it was just some guy who decided that it would be a cool, nifty idea to just lie about that. Although, I will say one thing: like the vast majority of UFO things that I've looked at, I don't necessarily believe in. They could be possible, but I do believe in Roswell, though, absolutely. And I definitely will say that um, when it comes to the idea of actually, somebody told me that like the guy who wrote War of the Worlds had like an idea for a gray alien, but that's just bullshit. Apparently, because somebody was basically trying to tell me that the gray alien was like a man-made caricature or whatever, and that's total bullshit. I mean, the aliens in War of the World were squid-like aliens in the original novel, but I'm kind of going off topic here. But anyways, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about this. I will pass the mic.
Thank you very much. That was a good turn. Appreciate your contributions, and I know there was one point you made there that I thought was particularly interesting. Yeah, just this idea that all mythological concepts can be traced to their origin point, but the gray alien one really can't. Now, Dr. Weird has now joined the chat, so I'd like to offer Dr. Weird the opportunity to take the next turn. And Dr. Weird, we're doing a roundtable format here about aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs. Do they exist? And if so, what do we know about them? And if not, why not? Would you like to take a turn and just get out as much relevant evidence as you're comfortable? Dr. Weird, are you there? Disconnect. Anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Shogun. It's just Dr. Weird for some reason isn't speaking.
Okay. All right. Dr. Weird may be having a technical problem, or he may be AFK. So is there someone else who wants to turn? Next turn?
Sure, I'll go on.
Okay, go ahead, Dylan.
Well, I've expressed this a few times. I think there have been global resets, and I think we've been contacting. This is my view. I've expressed it a few times. My view on it is that I think they have contacted us. They've viewed us. They've given us some stuff. Like I believe Greek fire may have come from aliens because it's not napalm. It acts differently, right? But I think that we're no longer in contact. And a lot of these ancient ruins we find about aliens is these civilizational remnants from the last reset, where they were in contact with aliens, which even say they were buddies with them. And then now, for some reason, we're no longer in contact. Maybe because the older generations from us, like ancient times, disgraced them or had a falling out for some reason. But it's very odd that a lot of these older ruins, right? It's almost like they're in communication with them. It's not worshiping.
All right. What?
Yes.
Are we having technical difficulties right now?
It might be.
Sorry, I disconnected for a second. Was Valen finished?
Yeah, I was mid sentence, but I heard people joining and quitting, so I stopped for a quick second. But yeah, I think many of these paintings of aliens, I don't even think they're worshiping. I think they're communications with them, because we have paintings, from what I can understand, like these drawings and mosaics, right? It looks like communication, where it's like they're holding a tablet. These things and saucers are holding tablets, right? And you may be like, they're stone tablets for messages, yeah. But if we were to like, if there was to be a global reset right now, my phone, I'd draw it like a tablet. I'd be holding it. I'd draw squiggly lines between the tower and my phone to be like, yeah, we're talking. And a lot of them, they have that. So I think we were in contact with these aliens and many of these races, and for some reason they stopped contacting us, or we stopped contacting them. Are they like, they just said, no, what, we're not dealing with these dumbasses anymore?
Is that all you wanted to say, Valen? And thank you for your turn.
Yeah. Another thing too is you look at the Nazca lines and the actual pictorial graphs. They're created on such a large scale, and they're only meant to be seen from the sky. So, why would they create something like that? It's a question.
It's a good question, Paulie, but is it the only one you wanted to make? Because remember, we're going in full turns here, so I want you to just tell me everything you can about aliens or UFOs all in one long turn.
Yeah, sure. You talked about Hindu with the Viaman. They talked about those things flying all over, right? Big galactical battles going on in the sky. They're nuking each other and stuff like that. Even when we go through the Bible and stuff, like there's people flying around little spaceships within the Bible in art, and it's the way I see it too. It's like you look at the Enoch, right? The B'nai Elohim, right? They talk about fallen angels or whatever, but they came from the sky as well, and like mixed with men and whatnot. So I believe that they were here for mining the gold, and it's all over like articles and whatever throughout history, and it's undeniable almost. Like it's like you'd have to be a little crazy and not to believe that the possibility is true. Like it's there. Even with the pictorial graphs and all that stuff you talked about earlier, it's mind blowing that a lot of people still deny even the possibility of having aliens up there. I'm done.
What we do know regarding UFOs is that they are physical objects and that they do exist. That is not in dispute, right? Some people are like, no, they don't exist. No. We have radar logs. We have, we have thermal imaging. We have visual imaging. We have very professional eyewitness testimony, including, full bird colonels, trained Air Force pilots, and air traffic controllers. There's more than a sufficient amount of evidence to prove that there are objects performing aerial maneuvers that are quote unquote impossible according to a relativity based standard G model of physics. Yet it's happening. So, we're going to have to update our physics or something.
That's very well said, Dr. Weird, as expected, but is there anything else you want to add? Because the format we're using right now is called roundtable, which means everybody gets one turn where they kind of say everything they have to say in one go, and then we go through the whole room once, and then after that we'll have open discussion. So was there anything else you wanted to add to your comments?
I do, yes. So there's actually, regarding the sightings and UFO activity of these objects that are flying around that we don't know what they are, but we know that they're solid objects for sure. They actually have a super high correlation around military bases, nuclear reactors, and nuclear weapons repositories.
This is correct. And they've actually, sorry, I'm getting a turn. You finished your turn, Dr. Weird?
Yep.
All right, so who would like the next turn at the mic?
I'll go.
If nobody, okay, go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Cool. As far as my personal belief about UFOs and stuff, logically, I don't find a reason for aliens to be here other than just to observe humans. So it makes sense when people get messed around with a lot of the stories or whatever. To me, anyways. And then I've had a couple of times where I thought I seen like UFOs or whatever. I remember once going over in LA. I was going through the freeway, and then like over at the LA, the downtown, you could see like what is it, like three like orbs of light or whatever. Everyone was seeing it. It was like a massive amount of people that were seeing it. I don't know why I didn't get more attention or whatever, but it was just like two orbs or three orbs that were like kind of like in a triangle floating around, and you'd see it in other parts of the at that same day you saw it in other parts of the state. But as far as the existence of aliens and whatever, it's I like that point that someone here mentioned where it's like around the time of the World War II we developed all this technology that was like like microchips and laser technology and things that were like just really advanced for getting out of like the more like industrial kind of era that we were barely in after World War One. I mean, war does inspire a lot of technological advances, but at the speed that, let's say, the Nazis were doing it, and also the United States, it was like kind of ridiculous. So I see that as a possibility of reverse engineering happening. And when it comes to just the historical kind of like images and things like that of alien technology, flying saucers, and all that stuff, it's pretty damning because a lot of it kind of like is cross-referenced with each other. Like different civilizations will have similar kind of ideas and or stories, either in religious text or like things that are scribbled on walls and stuff about like aliens or things that we would it would be safe to assume are aliens, and that just kind of lends credence to the whole idea that like they have been here for a while, maybe we're a pet project or something, that there's just almost undeniable evidence that it exists and interaction must have happened at one point, whether or not it had. Right now I haven't noticed anything right now, surprisingly. I'm kind of like close by to Roswell and stuff, and from what I've seen or whatever, it's usually things at night are just like C-130s and attack fighters coming in for refueling or rearming. So it's recently there hasn't been a lot of like local kind of like hubbub about like flying saucers and stuff that happen or whatever, but there has been in the past, and just as far as our technology goes, whatever, right now, like I don't know if you guys watched the live stream of the SpaceX launch. It was I forgot what the ship was called, but they launched a new ship or whatever, a spaceship or whatever, to like dock with the International Space Station, and it was a collaboration with NASA and SpaceX, and they were able to recover the fuselage, and they're trying to do that whole thing, reusing fuselages and rockets and all that, so it was cheaper flight. And as far as that goes, that was more of a question of metallurgy, I think, when it came to just like things that could withstand and be reused, like for re-entry and reuse of like rocket thrusters, because it gets pretty hot and it kind of like warps the engines to the point where you can't use them again. That's why we just have a bunch of trash and shit in space and stuff. And right now, it just seems like our technology is advancing to the point where we can like kind of do this regularly. And again, that feels a little bit like there might be some interaction with reverse engineering things. It's possible that we can do it on our own and all that, but it's also just one of those things where at the rate that we're expecting to do it, because when that rocket launched to dock with the International Space Station, it was also Elon Musk released plans to make like super, like what is it, like basically like super frigates that like float on the surface of Mars to collect resources and stuff. So it's like a lot of the things that could just be an ambitious thinking or whatever, but it's part of his actual plan. And it just seems like if we kind of advance to that point within the next 20, 40 years, I think that's like a giant leap in technology and stuff that's kind of unprecedented and would kind of lead into, aliens and stuff having, their technology. And There's also this one other thing. I keep forgetting exactly what his name was, but it's if you guys ever watched Joe Rogan's podcast, he talks about this one guy who used to work for like the military where they did a lot of like what is it called? Reverse engineering experiments on alien technology. And they talked about like this special type of matter or whatever that was created that they found recently again when they like, you know, collide particles with the Hadron Collider in Europe, and those that element or material was like kind of just creating like a zero. What is it? It's like a repelling force, kind of like negative mass or something like that. Like if you ever seen like Mass Effect or something like that, it was kind of something similar to that was being created or at the Hadron Collider, and then that scientist that used to work, he has like a lot of credentials or whatever. Like he's really well educated and he's worked for a lot of like projects and stuff dealing with like space travel and extraterrestrial things. And it kind of lends credence to his point too, because a lot of his data was scrubbed. But yeah, there was like people who interviewed him in the past who would go to the places he used to work at, both in like military bases and like, if I'm being honest, like military isn't as like tight knit and secretive as you think it is. It's like things get leaked every now and then, and it's just a matter of fact that like it just kind of gets brushed off and people just forget about it. That's usually what happens with a lot of information that would be damning. And but as far as that goes, like a lot of his like colleagues and stuff still remembered him and said, "Oh yeah, he worked here," but like officially on record, like any data on him is like basically like he almost never existed, or he existed but like he never worked in those areas or whatever. But there's a lot of like evidence to show that he did, and the things that he's saying are just kind of like they're, you got to take his word on it, honestly, what he's saying, the things that he researched or whatever. But it's also kind of suspicious why he would like basically be expunged from all these other places that he will work at. Because I mean, if I know a couple of people who work at what is it called, like just like top secret stuff or whatever, and their data, it's like it's not a common practice for people to just get expunged or whatever. So that's what I have to say on it.
Thank you very much. That was a great turn. We appreciate all that information. Welcome, Hawthorne Waxwing. And I just want to take a minute to remind everybody what we're doing right now. This is a roundtable on the subject of UFOs, ETs, and aliens, which means that each person gets one turn at the mic as we pass the mic around the round table. And you get as long as you want. There's no time limit. And you're just asked to tell us everything you know about this subject, or say everything that you want to say about this subject. And don't forget that there's a recorded text channel that accompanies all of our special events. It's the second channel down under the roundtable category in the server. It's just above the voice chats. Make sure you're in there posting your sources, your pictures, your articles, and having text conversations about aliens as well, so that we have information also in text format about all this. So post any resources or references or websites or whatever you have relating to aliens in that channel if you want to while you're listening. You don't have to. You can just listen as well. With that being said, who would like the next turn in the mic here?
Me.
You got it, bro. Go for it.
Alrighty, guys. Well, my source is the Bible. So I go everything I do. So a lot of people.
Sorry, you're cutting in and out for me. Is anyone else having that problem?
Yeah, he's cutting in and out.
Just try leaving and coming back, Seth.
Yeah, I got you.
Hungry, mister?
Okay, go ahead, Seth.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Perfectly, thank you.
Okay, yeah. So, everybody talks about aliens, UFOs, and all these other things, but I follow the Bible, man, and the Bible does not mention any extraterrestrials, UFOs, aliens. It doesn't mention that. The Earth is the only living planet I believe is like this. Everything is so perfect. Why? Because God made it. It's like literally you look at it and everything is just great nature wise. Humans, we tend to fuck shit up a lot. So you start looking at that type of stuff. Now, people say they've seen UFOs. A lot of projects have been done, but I honestly believe the aliens and the UFOs they're seeing are actually demons, and they roam around with their great technology, and they go abducting people. Sometimes they even send people back. I've seen the movie The Fifth Kind. I don't know if that was the Roswell thing or whatever that was called. But yeah, man, you guys need to stop being fooled. There's no other living planet out there. There's no other living aliens. It's demons. It's a spiritual realm, and it's our realm. So there's the angels, the demons, and us. And right now we need to get it together, man. It's a spiritual war, and that's all I gotta say. Thank you. Whoever disagrees, go ahead, man. I want to hear it.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'd
Thank
like
you.
to go.
No, hold on a second. Thank you, Seth, for your contribution. And the build. I've been doing this conspiracy server for a long time, and then another one before this one, and it's a never-ending debate between the people who think that UFOs and aliens are demons and the ones that think they're aliens. And I've heard both sides hundreds of times. So I'm glad that you expressed that, because that's actually a very common perspective. What Seth just said in the conspiracy world, that UFOs are demons. Now, I took a sort of a little extra mini turn there, but who would like the next turn on
I'd
mic?
like to go, and it'll
Go
probably be as
ahead.
long as your mini turn. I just want, playing off of what Seth said, I simply want to pose a question to the rest of the panel. So, knowing that the Earth is observably flat and motionless, and that there is no empirical nor scientific evidence supporting the globe model's as of yet unsubstantiated claims of gravity, curvature, axial rotation, and or the near perfect vacuum of space.
I'm sorry
knowing
to
all of that.
I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but I am allowed to for moderation reasons. You got to remember, this is a podcast with a specific topic. That topic is aliens and UFOs. Now we have a whole series of flat Earth events. If you want to listen to
That was the preamble to my question.
We're not talking currently about flat Earth.
Yeah, just to make this
Again, you
clear,
cut off
I
my
do not
question. The
believe
question
in
is, knowing all of that,
Okay,
how can aliens exist? Do aliens exist? And if so, how? How can they without the globe model?
But again, I could answer your question really easily, right? So the globe model is not a necessary precondition for the existence of aliens, and the two don't rely upon one another. They're just two different facts. One is the shape of the Earth, the other is the existence of life in other Earths, whatever shape, right? So if the Earth is flat, okay, maybe there's other flat Earths. That's where the aliens come from.
I feel like you're kind of bulldozing over my question.
Okay, well, we're gonna stop that now, because again, this is a different format, right? We could talk about that afterwards in the open round.
Yeah, no, it's just for the panel to ruminate and respond to. It wasn't
but that's
for back
not
and
how
forth
it's
or
going.
whatever.
Okay, so
They can respond in their own terms.
I'm gonna ask you to just yield the mic now and allow us to go back to our topic, which is aliens, ETs, UFOs, flying saucers. So
I don't appreciate you giving me my turn like you did everyone else.
The problem is it was off topic. Was it not off topic? We're not talking about flat Earth. We're talking about aliens. If your point was simply that flat Earth somehow makes aliens impossible, well, as I just explained, that doesn't make any sense and isn't true. But regardless, we're going to move on to the next. And you see why, right? Because if we can have one flat Earth where everybody lives, it's called Earth, then obviously, by logic, there could be an infinite number of other ones like that as well. So the shape of the Earth is not really related to the existence of extraterrestrial life, because extraterrestrial life could exist on planets of any shape.
Yeah, I could take my turn right now. And just to play off of what he was saying, also what Seth was saying, I don't have any personal experience with UFOs or anything like that. I did have a sleep paralysis experience once, but that's a separate topic. But, it's my personal belief that aliens, demons, angels, these are all one and the same. And I believe that if it was, it doesn't really matter if the Earth is round or flat. I believe that these aliens or demons or whatever are interdimensional beings that work outside of our own realm with the four dimensions that we are currently in. And so, I really don't have too many substantial claims to make on that. But, I feel there's a lot of coincidences, a lot of different relations between what's happened in our past, what's happened in history. As far as like, for instance, people who try to contact daemons or demons in the past. We see this kind of we're starting to see like a resurgence of this stuff, especially with AI. And Geordie Rose with his D-Wave technology and stuff. But as far as I think that's pretty much all I got, really. Like I'm kind of new to all this whole conspiracy thing, and I'm trying to understand it myself. But there just seems to be too many coincidences that go with each other. And NSA could probably chime in and talk about how this maybe not so much interdimensional beings, but maybe that they contact us within the same kind of mediums that we've seen throughout history in religious aspects or psychological or psychedelic experiences as well.
Sure.
But yeah, if you like to talk
Can you guys
about
hear me?
that.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll piggyback on that.
And to say we got to make sure that we have to make sure everybody who
He
wants to
called
turn
me
has
out.
it doesn't matter though. This is I keep repeating the format.
All right.
Everyone gets one full turn before anyone else gets. You don't get to speak again until everyone else has spoken. So, who would like the next turn to talk about aliens, UFOs, and ETs and so forth?
I would like a turn. So my thing is we should start questioning whether or not this is actually alien tech in nature, because we need to go back and see that the Germans during World War II were actually building hovercrafts, UFO-like saucers. They actually achieved some form of levitation. And my thing is, when you see a UFO, when you see a flying saucer, how do we know it's actually alien in origin? How do we know it's not just some super advanced military aircraft that's been on a top secret program at Area 51 for the last 2 decades?
And if that's you're finished, then Ronan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. Who would like the next turn? Anybody?
Sure.
Please sit and take it away.
Okay, so when it comes down to like aliens, from a personal perspective, you hear rather as you kind of stumble through life a lot of anecdotal or firsthand experiences. And then there has been, as people have discussed, political or scientific kind of dominance within the area where we say, hey, this is a more factual based claim. And even among those factual based claims, there is still the dispute of the entire scientific community, which says, bring us some hard evidence, or that's not hard enough. And I believe to at least some degree that we like to hold on to our fundamental core values. We don't as much so court chaos as we do hold into order. And so what we are looking for is something that fits in our storyline. So, hey guys, aliens exist, or whatever kind of narrative, it's off throwing. So with that in mind, I'm kind of that's how I turn down my bias to the scientific community and to those who I have to work and deal with on a regular basis as to whether or not aliens truly exist. I am not trying to promote a specific agenda or make a claim on this topic. I am simply stating what I observe. As to all the things aforementioned about the so-called catalyst process that's happened in the last 100 years with technology, we have things like Moore's Law, but then you could say Moore's Law is just made to fit the data, and the data shouldn't be naturally occurring in this way. And fair enough, man. But I would say, as kind of a caveat to that kind of claim, as an observation, we can look in the 1800s when we were kind of primitive in our technology, and there's people who came up with advancements and had these type of things and thought these type of things. And it's interesting how we attribute an advancement in technology to something that's higher than the capabilities of man. You do this with the Egyptians or the Mayans or in like any other kind of type of culture, more or less. We say, oh, they must have had some type of contact with a supernatural being, a spiritual being. And I'm just like saying that's an interesting correlation. Whereas why is that? Is that an actual factual claim for aliens? I mean, very valid, that could be, or very valid enough, that we're just willing to dismiss someone might be more intelligent than us. I mean, it's a really kind of a hard thing with the skepticism that's procreated by the society we live in, and it's a hard thing when you don't have that tangible experience to grab onto to claim that it's true. So, I mean, I definitely fall into the argument that, with the expansiveness of the universe that we live in, there has to be some type of intelligent life out there. I also fall into the argument of, if there is intelligent life out there that does have the ability to transverse space, um, why would they be interested in us? Why? How in the world would they even begin to communicate? They would just be like, you're an ant. Why do I care about you? Like, I mean, like, there's a lot of arguments to be made about those kind of things of like, no, they're getting involved. They're giving us technology, and it's the whole Prometheus and the gods type story. You know, I wonder at all that kind of stuff, but I would say it's definitely on the probability and statistical models. It's definitely something that's hard to dismiss, but it's very also hard to come to as a fundamental truth or say, I, declaratively can say that I've had a extraterrestrial encounter and that they 100% exist. So I guess for everyone, or specifically for myself, but I would hope for everyone, I believe the majority of people are kind of in the gray area.
Okay, thank you for that contribution. Is there anybody else who wants to talk about the alien UFO flying saucer type phenomenon? Again, you taking as long of a turn as you want to say everything you have to say on the topic.
Okay, I'd like to jump in. Okay.
You got it.
So I was putting this in the recorded event chat, and so basically my point is that the nearest star is 4.24 light years, and then rounding down to 4 light years. That's over 24 trillion miles. And in the fastest spacecraft known to man, going like 90,000 miles per hour, that would take over 30,000 years just to get to the nearest star. And we've been able to look at the nearest star with our most advanced telescopes, and we see absolutely no signs of any sort of viable planets. And so the nearest viable planet is probably just outrageously farther than the nearest star. And so it's highly improbable that biological life could make such a leap, because they would literally have to make a spacecraft that preserves DNA or something akin to DNA, like for intents and purposes, indefinitely. And unless they've managed to discover things about speed and breaking the speed limits of the universe that we haven't discovered. And that goes into my little graph with the hypothetical alien intelligence. How smart do you guys think these aliens would have to be in order to break physics and travel such a great distance? So it seems as though any member of that species would just be so incredibly intelligent relative to any human on Earth. We really would just be chimpanzees on a random pebble. And so it doesn't really seem that we would be interesting in any way for study or research if they were that intelligent. And it's so that just in my mind debunks all of these visitations and experiments. And with the absence of any real concrete evidence of aliens, it seems more likely, seeing as how we don't have proof of that explanation, the other possible explanations seem much more likely. Although I don't hold it against anybody for wanting to believe in aliens, but the proof against it is quite compelling. And I yield my time.
Thank you very much for that perspective. Is anyone else want to take a turn?
I'll go. I'm in.
And again, when I say that as someone who hasn't had a turn already, if you haven't had a turn already, go ahead, sir.
I don't know if anybody here is like familiar with like Bob Lazar and like what he's what his like claims are and everything like that. But I find him like pretty convincing. The Bubba's argument that there was like alien visitation on Earth prior to humans being here, and then over time, with the like advancements in human technology, aliens became more curious of humans and how we worked. With like the biggest achievement of us like splitting the atom and being able to convert the atoms into energy with nuclear bombs and things like that. And, if you look at history, there's been like a recorded spike since the first atom bomb testing of alien visitation, or recorded actual alien visitation. So like the Pentagon videos and things like that. Like there's been and reports of UFO that the Navy and the Air Force have decided to investigate and have gotten some evidence from. But the compelling arguments from Bob Lazar is the government every so often they've gotten these like spaceships or spacecrafts, whatever you want to call them, from like either dig sites or crash, so like Roswell and things like that. Not making a claim that Roswell is true or anything like that, but the incidences like that, we've recovered alien technology, and that they're able to they're able to bend gravity or create gravity. Once you're able to really create gravity, the sci-fi, the science fiction ideas of like force fields and things like that are actually possible once you're able to harness the power of gravity and be able to bend it to your will and whim, and be able to use it to propel yourself and things like that. And that's where like you start getting into quantum quantum physics and things like that, of be able to bend distance itself. So like forgot what people like to call it, but I don't know if anybody wants to help me here with the terminology, but being able to bend space and time, and jumping through like wormholes and things like that with like
Gravitational lensing.
No, I forgot what it's. I mean,
that's okay. We get
you
get
get
the concepts anyway.
Yeah.
Just carry on.
Yeah, and then with black holes, with how black holes work, they're extremely tiny, but like the amount of gravity that they pull, they bend the light around them and things like that. Like there's definitely things that humanity hasn't been able to even scratch the surface of, that could hold unbelievable technologies once we're able to understand how they properly function and work. So I think the idea of like aliens having to sustain life on these aircrafts because they're traveling at light speed. I think that's the whole point of aliens. Is like they're not at this like paradigm that humans are at right now. They're at a far more advanced spot in time than what we are. And I think they find humans dangerous. Not a very safe. How we operate. We're not very cohesive as humans are, and this is like a problem as we gain more technology and we're able to expand. The danger of humanity becomes like larger over time. So that's like what's encouraging these alien visitations. That it's out of curiosity of humanity. I yield my time, I guess.
So
thank you. That was great. Someone who hasn't spoken yet want to take a turn? Is there anyone else who hasn't had a turn yet who wants to take one, talking about aliens?
Oh, it's hot on here. I'll have a go. Just a couple of thoughts about sort of the Christian perspective. From the biblical writers...
Just 1 second. Everybody keep your microphone closed if you're not talking, because there's some kind of background noise. So when you're not talking, just mute your mic and then open when you're taking your turns. Go ahead, Arthur. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks. From the point of view of the writers of biblical times, I mean, there are many descriptions in Scripture of extraterrestrial entities coming down to earth and communicating with people like Moses, taking people up into the skies with them. So to reduce that experience to just the notion of demons isn't coherent, because the entity that spoke with Moses wasn't a demon, nor was the one who took other ascendant beings up into the heavens. So the idea that anything extraterrestrial is demonic and just doesn't really do justice to the way the scriptures describe the phenomena. And so I think it's more complex than that. And also, even the idea about the distance of geography really just defers the question of whether alien beings have access to forms of knowledge that allow them to travel in ways that are inconceivable to us. And speculations about wormholes and other forms of skipping over the span of light years is certainly already conceivable to us simple simians. So if they have access to those technologies, that would certainly surprise us. But all higher levels of technology always surprise those who have never seen it. And then there's the whole consistent testimony of humankind itself, which has so many proliferating examples of attempts to communicate, both observations and attempts to communicate. Things like the Nazca lines, which are obviously positioned for extraterrestrial observation. They don't mean anything to people on the ground. You have to be up in the air to see them. So I just would encourage people to not limit themselves to sort of a preconception about what's possible based on the...
Guess he disconnected for a second. Give him a second, see if you can come back or not, and then if anyone else wants a turn, be ready to go. So we'll just continue on. Want to turn? Does anyone else want to take a turn and talk about UFOs?
Yeah,
can you guys...
Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
So, okay. I know, like, some things and then things that shouldn't be known, but it just has to do with either, like, something with Native American lore in the UFOs, and then I'm also want to say, like, people that are, like, kind of in tune to, like, the extraterrestrial being. Like, they can honestly telepathically talk to you as well. It happened to me one time, and I was terrified. Terrified. I didn't even know what was going on. Something like got in
I'm
my
just
mind.
going to, this is a moderation interruption. Helper, would you be willing to do a podcast on it and just tell us that story at a later date? Like maybe even tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay, so tomorrow at 8 p.m., would you be willing to just give us like the full account of that story as our podcast for next day? Because if you had a telepathic alien encounter or whatever, we podcast about it.
Yeah, I would love to talk about it.
Okay, thanks. So that'll be tomorrow. Okay, so sorry to whoever I interrupted. Please carry on with your
I
turn.
was
That
just
was you.
gonna
I'm sorry.
say, like, basically the whole thing of UFOs and aliens. There's a lot of people out there that want to say like they're real and not real, but just looking at the sky is your only answer. And like other countries, you can see like evidence of that there's been like civilizations far advanced that have been here, and the history is changing. That's all I want to really say is that like UFOs are real. And
Thank you, Helper. Like, we'll get your story tomorrow. But thank you for your contributions. That takes us. Hawthorne, you got disconnected last time. Was there more that you wanted to say? Hawthorne, can you hear us?
I'm good. I completed, I think. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thanks. Just because you disconnected it for a second. So we're unsure. Does anyone else want to turn? Once. Going twice. Scientists, you want to talk about aliens?
I mean, I kind of messed up my first one a little bit because I wasn't really thinking.
We can continue on. I'm just asking. Scientist Richard Dawson, Woman of Wonder. Do any of you guys want to talk about this? Okay, so that being the case, anyone who wants to take another turn, just go ahead. NSA, you can start if you want.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, on Earth, I've personally made contact with an alien. They've communicated to me what they're doing. I only have proof personally of anecdotal evidence of one species here, but I believe there's many. They are very, very advanced. They have advanced communications technology that I believe is faster than light, and it's something referred to as scalar wave technology. Dr. Greer talks about this very frequently. I believe that they are implanting human beings. There's too many reports of it to not think that they are. And what these implants are neurocybernetic implants. And what they do...
There seems to be some kind of distortion on your mic or something. Can you do anything
Is this
about
better? I don't know. It's on my phone, so...
All right, that's okay. Carry on. Sorry.
So, I believe that these are neurocybernetic implants that read minds, and the mind reading technology is relayed back to their source. So, of the 1% of schizophrenics on planet Earth, I believe 100% of them are alien victims. These implants, according to them, have been put in millions of people, and it has been weaponized for mind control research by the CIA and whatever treaties they have made with these people. There's quite a lot of evidence to corroborate this. There is a company called Stanford Research Institute. They do research for psychic research and remote viewing. Remote viewing, as far as I'm concerned, is interaction with the augmented reality mind reading technology they put in people that allows them to beam images to their eyes. So I believe the ETs have holographic technology to overlay your eyes with light to form images. This is how they affect and manipulate dreams. I believe that's why it's called Dreamland at Area 51. So I believe there's a whole host of technologies interacting with them. I believe the US military is 100% aware and complicit. I believe there's cults around the scenario on Earth. I believe it's the root of the New World Order, as it were, but these technologies are basically, if you don't go along with the plan, they drive you crazy and schizophrenic, they discredit you and ruin you. Or you join the cult. And I believe they're doing it to bankers, millionaires, billionaires, influential people all over the place. And it's the root of the front-facing psyop known as the Illuminati and all that bullshit and the all-seeing eye and everything else involved with Masonry. So I don't believe things that the Masons are doing are of human origin. I don't believe they're demonic either. I believe they're extraterrestrial in origin from the dead gods of Egypt, as they like to say. That's my theory.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, if nobody else wanted to go, I would like to take another turn as well. So I want to say a few different things. So first we'll talk about what's called the Sirius mystery or the Dogon mystery. There's an African tribe of villagers who live in Africa in like hut type like environment, not whatever technologically advanced in any way. And they actually have a map of Sirius A and Sirius B and their accurate rotations and relative sizes and positions. And modern astronomers didn't know that that system was a binary system until very recently. But the Dogon people had this literally drawn on their cave walls, and they got it all correct. So they had this advanced knowledge of the Sirius star system and absolutely no technology that would explain how this would be possible, even today. And they have the history of how this happened. They say these being called the Nomu came out of the oceans, and they were like fish aliens. And they literally gave them this information. And so the fact that they have this impossible information and then the story about basically meeting aliens, basically to me is a very compelling evidence that that story is true, because the evidence that it's true is that the information is accurate and it's about a distant star system. So obviously these were aliens. So that's a very compelling case to me. Another very compelling case is, as we mentioned, there were absolutely confirmed instances of UFOs interfering with nuclear missile silos. They'll go and turn off the missiles and shit. Can you guys wait 1 sec? Make sure I'm connected here. Yeah. So that's also very significant. There's also something called the Rendlesham Forest incident, which is very significant. Area 51, how significant you think all the reports there are. It's for classified aircraft, so it does make sense why people would think they were UFOs, because you wouldn't be able to identify classified aircraft you'd never seen before. But today, okay, so here's some other interesting information. There is life on Mars, right? Like currently, there's organic life on Mars. There's like lichens, mushrooms, and fungus that have been confirmed to be on Mars. I've also seen compelling evidence of like animals, like small and very small animal, as well as like crab-like things. So there's definitely both past, like extinct, mostly like 90%, 99% extinct life forms on Mars, but there's also ones that are still alive. And I know that because I've seen tons of pictures of them and stuff, and it's pretty much impossible for them to be anything else. Apparently, the Mars rover, whatever, literally like drove by the area once and saw these little like blueberry-like things, and then drove by the same area later, and they were like mushroom-like things. So they literally like captured them growing, and like growing off the sides of rocks and shit. And basically, there's also evidence of archaeological relics on Mars. There's things that seem to be like, statues or little bits of like pottery and shit like that. So I believe that both Venus and Mars and the moon are inhabited in some way, as is also the moons of Saturn and the moons of Jupiter, probably. And Mars was actually destroyed in an alien war, although obviously I don't know who it was at war against or whether they just did it themselves. But Mars was destroyed by a nuclear weapon, but there was a civilization there. And there's weapon signatures on Mars that indicate that it was destroyed by nuclear weapons of just like unimaginable size. So I think our whole solar system, and the scientists agree that both Mars and Venus had Earth-like atmospheres and habitats in the ancient past. And so, like, basically our history of our solar system is that Mars, Venus, and Earth were all like Earth at one time, like Earth-like planets, like with life, almost certainly. And then there seems to have been a war on Mars, which is why every culture on Earth associates Mars with war and Venus with love. I personally think Venus is, this. So let's get into a concept of what are these aliens, right? So there's the gray aliens, which are the most common ones. These ones seem to be malevolent, and I'm not sure, but I suspect that these ones may possibly be from Mars. But there's also like bases, alien bases, UFOs, alien structures on the moon. I've seen like photo evidence of this. And there's also the monolith on the moons of Mars that the astronaut guy talked about on Phobos and Deimos. And think about this. Mars, the name Mars means war, and then Mars has two moons, Phobos and Deimos, which mean fear and death. So why, does every culture on Earth associate this planet with war, fear, and death? And why does it carry this huge atomic weapons signature, which apparently can't be explained by anything else? And I've also seen an orbital photo of a current mushroom cloud exploding on Mars. And I've definitely seen pictures of UFOs over Mars as well. So, and there's definitely bases on the moon, both human and extraterrestrial. And so how far the secret space program has actually gone into space, we don't know. But to colonize our solar system, it's pretty easy, and I think that we've probably found evidence of extraterrestrials on every planet. We'll find evidence of extraterrestrials on every planet that we go to in our solar system, because it's not even clear that humans originate on Earth necessarily. I mean, I know the Bible says that humans were obviously created here, but that doesn't mean that humans couldn't have been created on other planets as well. So that's my next turn. Sorry for going long. One sec. Okay, so should we wrap up the episode there then?
Sure, it's been an hour and a half, I think, almost an hour and a half.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. This was a really interesting discussion about, extraterrestrials and UFOs. I learned a lot of different interesting perspectives. And you should take a look at our upcoming event schedule, podcasts every day at the same time, 8 p.m. Central. But if anyone else wants to make a closing comment, otherwise, thank you very much. And let's jump up to roundtable 1.
I was going to say real quickly, it's amazing that we don't have very many disbelievers in here that jumped up and, attacked the idea.
Yeah, I think that it's becoming common knowledge because of the disclosures that have happened from the government, as well as other things. But I'm going to close the event now. Thank you, Paulie. So we're the Roundtable Discord server. Just find us by Googling Roundtable Discord. We're also on BitChute, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Minecraft, and I'm pretty sure quite a few other things I can't remember right now. But let's all jump up to Roundtable 1. Thanks so much. Please join us again for the next special event.